So, we have the news now that the Iranian government is more chicken than a Juja kebab, and they've decided, after all, not to back Hamas. Do you remember all those stories about people making deals with the devil only to find themselves in a terrible fix? And that's when they discover the devil has abandoned them to their fate. Well, the people of Gaza made a deal with Hamas, and now Hamas has abandoned them and retreated to their bunkers, while in their turn, Hamas made a deal with Iran, which has abandoned them. Even worse, I should think by now their supplies of Captagon must be running out. I'm Granniopteryx. Iran has deserted Hamas. I did say early on that I believe the Iranian government must have got a bit of a shock when they heard how Hamas behaved. I don't suppose that they would have been too worried about the atrocities, but I'm sure they were fairly upset over the fact that Hamas had videoed the whole thing and uploaded it to the internet for all to see about the bravery of the Muslim soldier. That's because for all its atrocities, nepotism, incompetence and corruption, at least the Iranian government has all the trappings of a proper government structure. It's sort of embarrassing for a legitimate government to be associated with something like that. Obviously, the $10 billion Biden bribe might have helped, but I'm also pretty sure that they realised that Hamas was completely outside their control. But then, what did they expect from a lot of drugged-up, hate-filled fanatics who'd been promised paradise and virgins in death and in life at $10,000 and an apartment for every hostage they brought in? So, for all their videos showing Hamas training, crawling under barbed wire and hanging from poles and that sort of thing, they lack the three things an effective army must have: discipline when out in the field, a legitimate command structure, and a purpose beyond just killing. When you train an army whose only object is to destroy, not simply to kill soldiers, but to kill every living human being in their path, then what you end up with is a rabble that's armed to the teeth, and in this case, mostly hopped up to the teeth with amphetamines. And I'm interrupting this tirade to remind you to click the like button, to remind you to subscribe, and to remind you, if you're on YouTube, to click the notification bell. All the links to my other platforms are in the description, including links to donation sites. Very grateful for donations, but really the best way you can help this video and my channel is just by clicking like. Okay, back to the grim reality. And this turned out to be an embarrassment to the entire Muslim world. For sure, the people of Gaza, the masses, the foot soldiers, they got to follow the troops and loot the devastated villages. Oh yes, they did that. It's not like they didn't know about it. The so-called Palestinian victims followed on out of Gaza and enjoyed the advantage of the situation. And then back in Gaza City, they danced about and spat at the dead bodies while stuffing themselves with as much baklawa as they wanted. But the commanders back in Tehran and the rulers in the rest of the Arab world, the ones running legitimate countries, well, countries with a structure, even evil, repressive, degenerate theocracies like Iran, they knew the true situation, and they also knew that a bloodthirsty horde of well-armed killers, trained from early childhood to be psychopaths, who go to war equipped with AK-47s and rattling with hallucinogens, not alcohol, heaven forbid. No, mostly phenethylline, which the Quran does not forbid because Well, Allah apparently didn't know about it at the time, so that's all right then. Such an army is not controllable and could go rogue against anyone, not just a few villages of the Israeli peaceniks in the desert. Like most terrorist organisations, Hamas had not only exceeded their remit, they'd exceeded their competency. But that's the other trouble with rebel armies, isn't it? No checks and balances in the command structure. In all this horror, it is grimly amusing to see the Ayatollahs squirming while they were faced with a choice of either saying they didn't know, in which case that would be an admission that they had no control over their proxies, or they had to say they did know about it beforehand and so accept responsibility for a massacre which even the most murderous passages of the Quran didn't actually sanction. They chose the former, which was the lesser of two evils, if you ask me, because although the masses might deny it happened, the governments know exactly that it did and what it did, and I'll bet they're as much rooting for the destruction of Hamas as anyone in Israel. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.